Hey, Scott.
Hey,
How are you doing?
not too bad. Not too bad. It's a good Wednesday so
Good.
far.
Can you see our
Ho-
class? Everybody wave.
Hopefully you got. All right, sorry. All right, put the arms down. Put the arms down. Okay, somebody, I'm just kidding. No, no, I can see everybody. Hey, wow, like the folks here. Very cool. So I'm at the home. I'm at the home office today. I always work from home on a Wednesday, so thus some of the decorations, the lights, and different things like that. But you know, that's how she goes. All right, where's the kid who set this whole thing up? You?
Bryce.
Oh, yeah.
This is Bryce. Wave really big.
Can you
Over
see
here.
me? I don't know where the camera is.
It's over there with the blue light.
You're all the way in the top left corner, man. You're good. Okay, so for all of you, if this goes not according to plan, that's who you talk to. Okay, I'm just gonna put this out there. Okay, but thank you so much for having me in. Oh man. All right. So I have I don't know what you guys expected today. I still don't know what I'm expecting, but I kind of like to do things off the cuff or whatnot, so I'll do my best with that. I have a little presentation thing. I'll show some of my work, give a little bit of my background or whatnot, and then if y'all have any questions or anything like that, I should be around for a little while to answer them afterwards. Did anybody have, is there anything I should know before I get started, or just we set?
That sounds good. We'll plan to wrap up at 12:45. So
Okay.
we'll
So
listen
it
up.
is,
For questions, we'll converse.
okay, it's about high noon right now. All right, let me grab, let's see, where'd it go? Gotta get my stuff real quick. Okie dokie. All right, see if I can get this thing to work here. Hold on. Zoom is an interesting thing. Okay, here we go. All right, I'm gonna share my screen. All right. All right, can everybody see a big yellow red logo?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, so here we go. So start off simple or whatnot. I'm Scott Fuller. I'm a graphic designer and illustrator from the Studio Temporary. I'm originally from Newnan, Georgia, which is about as far away from Atlanta as you guys are. I have a studio now in downtown, which is kind of cool. Thanks for having me. I appreciate this. It's always fun to to get out there and chit chat for a little bit. Special thanks to those who set it up. Much appreciated. Like I said, I'm from Atlanta, A-Town, representing the studio pretty well. So what I'm going to do really quick is I'm just going to go through kind of what it took to get me to literally where I'm sitting right now. Trust me, it will not be as long as you think. But just a very quick thing. So I was born in 1985, so I've just turned 33 last week. So that's kind of cool. It's still weird talking to people that are half my age, but I've gotten over it to some extent. So it's kind of cool. Born and raised there in Newnan. A lot of the basic stuff. I'm sure none of you guys have ever heard this before. Is that I love to draw, and I love to make things and build things and and whatnot. I did it from the time I was a kid all the way up until through high school. I still do it now. My dad's a machinist. My mom's a school teacher. They're still both doing their current things. They're both in their 60s now, which is kind of cool. That they're still still doing that. I worked at my dad's machine shop for a long time. I actually graduated high school when I was 16. Up in my last couple of years, I did trigonometry and physics and calculus and all kind of fun stuff with the goal of initially becoming a mechanical engineer. So a little bit of a stray away from from where I am currently, but still kind of cool. But I was still doing all the other stuff on the side. So as a senior, I took a class similar to what you guys are in right now, and realized that was what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So I switched from mechanical engineering to graphic design. So college years. Oops, sorry. Okay, college years. If you want to know the discrepancy in there, why it's not 4 years, you get kicked out for a year. I won't go into it. I'm not a perfect guy. Sue me. It was kind of a rough bit, but all that's taken care of. I'm in school. I meet my wife. I learn all about graphic design. We didn't have the greatest program, so I had to do a lot of learning on my own. Even while I'm here, even while I have an incredible opportunity, one thing that I learned there especially was the fact that you really can't rely on just what you're learning while you're in school. It's the late nights, it's the nights with no sleep, it's the time between classes, it's the sketching at dinner, or stuff like that. That's where a lot of this stuff really kind of comes from, and that's where I that's where I really, really learned and really honed my skills, and what I still try to do to this day. 2009 to 2011. 2008, I graduated from college. 2008 was a bad year, just in general, like especially for folks coming out of college. So I got an internship. I was there for 4 months. We lost our number 2 client, and originally they were going to keep me on. They decided not to because of that, which sucked because I was getting married in 2 months. So, this whole deal is not without craziness and not without some hardships and whatnot. But, so for those first couple of years, I struggled quite a bit. I was looking for work. I worked everywhere, man. I worked at a Minuteman Press. I worked in an old machine shop as a materials guy. I worked at a Subway for 2 weeks. Don't ever work at Subway. They make great sandwiches, but, that's a whole other thing. And 2011, I'm working in an Apple store. Now, this Apple store was called, has anybody ever raised a hand? Has everybody heard of a store called Peach Mac? Maybe. Okay. Yeah, see, I couldn't even get a job at a real Apple store. That's how bad it was, right? So I'm in the store and I'm selling the computer to the right guy who turns out to have a trucking company up off Moreland Avenue off of Truckers Row. He says, "Do you do freelance?" "Yeah, I do freelance work." I'm sure he's wondering at that point how good I actually am at it if I'm selling him a computer. But he invited me up to talk about some freelance work. Well, we get up there. We chit-chat for a few minutes. He asked me to update his iPad. I told him absolutely not. And we got down to business. So he said, there's been a little bit of a misunderstanding. Oops, sorry. I do not want to hire you, or I do not want to have you for freelance. At this point, I'm really upset because I took a half a day off of work. I drove all the way up there, get my hopes up. And man, but then he comes back and says, "You don't understand. We don't want you to do that because we want to hire you full time. We want you to, basically, you're going to be the director of in-house design. You're going to do all of our stuff, our catalogs. You're going to redesign our logo. You're going to do all of our signage and all of our, just everything." So in the space of about 20 minutes, I more than tripled what I was making at the Apple store, and just incredible. Now I'll forever remember this day because that evening I came home and my lovely wife of almost 10 years told me of almost 10 years told me that she was pregnant. So I will, for those two things, my first big job and my son who'll be 7 next week, we're taking him to Disney World. It's going to be so much fun. I've never been either, so this is going to be, I think we're going to fight over who's going to be the bigger kid at this point, but it's going to be a lot of fun. But so yeah, so 2012. Now, as you can, wait. Oh wow, everybody's table turned yellow. This is really cool. I'm sorry, I'm seeing this from the other. I'm seeing this from the other side. I'll stop doing that. I'm going to give y'all seizures in a minute. So 2012, I founded what is now known as the Studio Temporary. Now, it did not used to look like this. It's the outside of an old shop in downtown Noonan. And if you go to most old downtowns in the South, there'll be houses along the sides of the roads and everything like that. There'll be houses along the side of the road, and they'll have businesses in them. Well, this one happened to have an old sign shop. Well, the guy let me use his little back area. It was about a 2 or 3 minute walk from where my wife and I were living at the time. And he gave me a key, never charged me a penny of rent for a year and a half. I just came and worked there in the evenings when he wasn't there, which is a pretty cool deal. Now, this was me. As you can see, the beard is just a little, it's just getting started at this point. I had a little bit more hair on the top of my head, so, but in some ways, a lot of things haven't changed as far as this goes. I guess I've changed more Under Armour than I am Adidas now. So, okay, fine. A lot of stuff has changed. So my first night there, I decided to, I just said, I've got to have one project just kind of kick off this thing. And hold on just one second. Sorry, all of these things, I should have turned all of this stuff off beforehand. I'm incredibly sorry. Just a moment. Okay, I'm gonna go back to sharing my screen. And back to, now I've lost everything. Hold on. Bug. Okay, sorry. No more weird noises anymore. So as a joke, I decided to call this place the Studio Temporary, right? So I'm there, it was just started out as a joke. And then a couple months later, I read an interview by one of my favorite designers. And in the interview, he was asked, what is the most important tool in your studio? And I read this awesome answer, which completely changed my life. He said, it's my head, right? Just a cool answer from a really great guy. So I went back to the studio that night and I couldn't stop thinking about it. So I decided to stick with the Studio Temporary as my name and with the tagline, good design wherever I happen to be, because that's the most important tool in my studio is my head. Then there we go. So 2015, I meet a man by the name of Michael Savani, who starts to run this awesome place called here in downtown Atlanta called Switchyard Downtown Club. Now, I met him through a friend, just completely out of the blue. A buddy of mine was working on the interior of the place, and he said, you got to check this place out. I think you'd really enjoy it. So I did. Turns out the guy who founded it had heard of me and asked me to be a part of the place and to have my studio there. And secondly, he asked me if I would like to do the sign that is now painted on the front of a 95-year-old building right smack dab in the middle of downtown Atlanta. Yes, that is my design on the front of said building. Completely out of the blue. And I have since been, I wish I was at the studio today. Today just happened to work out the best. But this gives you an idea of what my studio looks like. Plenty of work and craziness and whatnot going on. I'm actually, as you can see, I'm a much nicer guy than my facial expression here. But this is me. This is where I work. This is where I get stuff done. And it's been a weird road. I left my last job, what I hope will be my last corporate job, back in 2015. And that was over 3.5 years ago. I've been running the Studio Temporary full time, and I assure you I'm much happier than this picture is letting on. So what I want to do really quick is I want to give you guys just a quick overview of some of the work that I've done over the last year and a half, 2 years or so. I will also put this to some music if y'all don't mind. I hope this is not turned up too loud. Any Lynyrd Skynyrd fans in here?
One.
Okay, got one. 2. I've got a few more. Okay, here we go. Please let this work. Oh.
I hear 'em.
So, so that's me. That's this is the type of work that I do. This is the type of some of the clients that I end up playing around with. So yeah, this is kind of that. Now I want to give you guys a couple of quick things. Does everybody still hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry if I blew your ears out with that. So a couple of quick things just to kind of go through. This whole just hustle, you know, that's like the big thing. I call BS every now and then just because, you know, you can run around like a crazy person, but if you have no direct sense of direction, you don't know what you're doing, it can be a little interesting. So there's something to be said about just getting up in the morning, making a list, which is what I do every morning. Get up in the morning, I make my list, I jump in on it, rise and grind. You just get up, show up, and get it done. And if you can make that a habit, then a lot of good things are going to happen. Don't take no for an answer. So all right, so before I jump into that, here's a quick question. By a show of hands, I can still see you guys. As a show of hands, how many of you guys have ever had something that you just absolutely love just shot down? Raise your hand. You have been turned down for something that you really, really thought you had. Raise your hand. Yeah, it happens. Now, as designers, of course, we are more than okay with that, right? Wrong. I still can't stand it, and I'm 30, and I've got at least a decade or more on everybody there. Now, it doesn't change when you're in the industry. But what I did is I worked on an identity project, and I built this little typeface. I built a couple of little characters or something, and I'm like, well, we could turn this into a whole new typeface. It'd be cool. They hated it. So, me being me, I decided to turn it into an entire typeface, which became the first typeface that I ever put out, Solid 70. Did the characters, did all the, you know, all these different special characters and whatnot. I even made a specimen poster, man. The old Type Foundries that I've always loved, even as when I was first starting out, they would always send out posters and gifts and little pieces of merchandise and everything when they come out with a new typeface. So I wanted to do that. I got the screen printed and worked out a deal with a buddy who sold it through his site, and that became my first typeface because I saw something that I really, really wanted. Now, somebody else might have had no use for it, but I knew I did. Right? I got to use it right off the bat. I got to talk at this incredible thing. It was their 25th event for Types Cucci Atlanta. They asked me to talk. They asked me to do the poster. I said I have just the typeface for it. Lots and lots of fun with that one. That one is actually hanging up in the studio, which is kind of cool. From then, I have gone on to create more typefaces. We got Firebox up here in the top left. You got this awesome Authority typeface on the top right, bottom left. Transistors. This is beautiful, condensed, compressed, smushed typeface that I would thoroughly enjoy. and a little open diner down here in the bottom right, you know. And this all started because I decided, you know what, I saw something that I really enjoyed and I wanted to push it, and I made something cool with that. Do it just because I play table tennis. And when I say I play table tennis, I'm talking about the guys that you would see on like ESPN. I competed for years, went to the Junior Olympics when I was a teenager, won a couple of silver medals, just all kind of stuff. So I decided, you know what, I'm just going to make something of my own. So I made this little thing, you know. It sells a couple of shirts every now and then, but just for fun, you know. And but here's the fun part, doing stuff like this, you know, I don't have anybody at the studio to go out and find work for me. I don't have account folks. It is literally just me. So how do I get people's attention? Well, I do the work, right? I've gotten more people interested in some of the stuff that I do just because of things that I did just for the heck of it, or that I just did for fun. They see that, you know, they see, you know, everything behind it, but they want to know more about that. A lot of times that's my end to a lot of these things, you know. For example, how many of y'all are familiar with the Atlanta Hawks? So I just signed the Atlanta Hawks as a client in August. The reason that I didn't ask to talk to them, I had no connections inside. They saw a piece that I did a month and a half earlier, just for fun. But that piece won me the chance to work with what is now easily one of my favorite clients. You know, you never know where it's going to come from. It doesn't have to be for a class. It doesn't have to be for a project or a client. It can just be for fun. You know, one of the things I've always said is I love design. I love doing this long before it ever became a job for me, long before, right? And this gives me the chance to really, really, I mean, I love doing what I do for the clients, but I also love doing this stuff for myself as well, you know? Do what it takes, man. Okay, who's ever seen this logo before and or knows what it is? Okay, Johnny Cupcakes, fantastic fella out of Boston. I love this stuff. Check him out, great folks. I've been wanting to work with Johnny for a long, long time. So he got in touch with me and asked me if I would like to create a couple of T-shirts for their flagship store for their for the 15th anniversary. And I said I would love to. I said, when do you need them by? He said, I basically had less than a day and a half, so I had about 30 hours to do the whole thing. Now, here's where it gets interesting. I'm leaving that morning. I'm leaving the next morning to go to my favorite conference, the one that I always go to, Creative South in Columbus, Georgia. I go every year. I haven't missed. If I only get a chance to ever go to one other conference for the rest of my life, that is it. Now, he did not know this. I did. Now, I know what's waiting on me down there. I'm excited. I only get to do this once a year. I don't want to miss it. I did so many things that I have going on, and I said, not a problem. Because I've been asking to work with this guy for years. And he's finally given me an opportunity. I'm not going to turn it down just because, there's this little thing going on over here. So the next morning, I show up at the studio. I got to pick my buddy up at the airport and then drive down. I get to the studio at 6 a.m. I'm in the studio at 6 a.m. and I'm pounding away on this thing, man, just working and working. Now, I did a little Instagram live, and then Johnny texts me and says, oh, man, I didn't know you were going to a conference. Are you going to be okay? He's now giving me a way out of this. I said, not a problem. A sleepless night later in Boston, Massachusetts, I have this little guy, you know. They are, you know, Massachusetts folks, got flexing with that, which is really cool. A great beard on this rascal, which is cool. And then you're into Boston, little red line, green line action, right? Right there, about to come right in front of the store. I got both of these done in a day while I was at a conference, while I was out doing things, while I was, you know, I took the time, I made the time because I asked for this opportunity. Sometimes that opportunity will come. It may not be on the terms that you want, but still worth to take. And these aren't my mock-ups. This is what's on the site, which is really, really cool. And then to top it all off, they did a magazine. They do a zine once a month. They did during that year. This is the centerfold of that magazine. They talked about how we work together. You know, I've got 4 more of them sitting right here on the desk, which is kind of cool. So in other news, and some of this has been updated, but I got to started doing work with a lot of musicians, man. Got oh my goodness, what is it? A chance to work with the Banditos. My buddy's down at the Standard Deluxe. I made some stamps, which were kind of fun. Got to work with the city of Atlanta, which blew me away. I met this guy, and next thing you know, I'm sitting there at City Hall talking to this dude, and we're working up some cool stuff, to be launching soon. Switch Yards, which is really cool. Getting to do this and make that logo, which is kind of cool. I got to make another typeface for the studio that I work at, the building. Once again, I just made a couple of characters. We decided to make the whole thing. My first mural down there in the basement at Switch Yards, which was really cool. Education, man. AIGA Atlanta started they call it Design Continuum, where high school students will get college scholarships to go for art and design and everything. I'll have to put you guys in touch. But they asked me to make a poster for it, right? Simple shapes, simple colors, and whatnot. I made a poster of my logos. This is well over 200, and this spans about a year and a half's worth of work. This is a massive piece, 2 feet wide, 3 feet tall. Oh my goodness. Now, here's how crazy things are right now. I was flipping coins when I got in those last 2 rows. I'm like flipping coins to see what am I going to put in there, what am I going to keep out. This came out in February of this year. Since February, I have made enough work to fill this poster about 2/3 of the way full, which blows me away. So the second edition will be coming, I'd say within the next 4 or 5 months, and none of these logos will be on there, and I'll fill up that same amount again. It's fun and it's crazy, and it's so weird to see it, So it's kind of fun. Now, very quickly, final thought. Listen up carefully. We are living in a weird time. I'm not going to get political. I'm not going to do that. I'm a conservative man myself. However, there's something to be said about treating others, whether they agree with you, whether they don't agree with you, with some semblance of respect. This has been lost. And seriously, I know this is as a designer, going to come in and talk to us about this. This still applies in my industry. It still applies. I've seen it go both ways. I've seen folks that learn how to respect each other and work with each other. I've seen folks that just have no intention of doing that. It doesn't work out. It doesn't work out very well, fellas. I'm not kidding. This is very, very serious. So think about this, right? Barter. Somebody may not want to pay a high school student the amount of money that they might want to pay me for a logo. I get it, but who knows? They might have a service that you have that you want. Those posters that I got designed, I paid for the paper, and that was it. I did some design work for them, and they did the printing. I wear a watch. There's a watch company called Aviate out of the UK. I wear that watch. They sent me a watch, one of the ones that I really, really wanted that I definitely couldn't afford, in exchange for an illustration. I've done that in the past, So think about that, with bartering. Just in general, just trust me, it works. Your name means something. When people say my name, I've been doing this long enough that certain things come to mind. When somebody says your name, especially whether it comes to your school, whether it comes to your personality, whether it comes to how you treat people, your name's immediately going to be, something's originally going to be thought. What is that going to be? Your name means something. It's okay to be different. Just trust me. It really is. And last but not least, there are no excuses. I came out of school that wasn't that great. I graduated in the middle of a recession. My wife and I were evicted from my house after I got laid off from my job. All of those things have happened to me, and it hasn't been that long ago. But I didn't get any type of a pass. No free passes on learning how to make a logo or how to work with people or, any of that type of stuff, man. I don't get a pass on this. And it doesn't matter who you are physically, mentally, emotionally, geographically, socially, whatever. There are no excuses. You can find a way to make this stuff happen. You love something like this, right? I mean, you think about the things that are most important. It's my lovely wife, Julie. My little boy, Sean, showing here screen printing. His first bit of screen printing was so cool. What you don't see is that apron of his. He's on a stool, and that apron is reaching all the way to the floor. This is so cool. One of the proudest moments of my life. So, as I will leave you with this, my mantra: freedom to work, freedom to live, y'all. This is who I am. This is what I want to do. I love doing what I do. I love getting a chance to put in the work, and hopefully you guys do as well. Thank you. If you want to check out some of the stuff that I do, thestudiotemporary.com. I'm also on Instagram and Twitter and other things at Studio Temporary if you guys want to follow along. And then, that's it. That's what I got going on, man. So all right. Can you just see me now?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. It is 12:28, so I left us a good 15 minutes or better. If you folks have any questions at all, raise your hands and we'll go from there.
I've got a few questions that the class formulated yesterday. So
okay.
We'll those. And then if y'all think of any extra ones, we'll maybe do the last 5 minutes if you've got some extra ones from what you sent yesterday. Zach submitted a question that was good. He wants to know what a typical day of work looks like for you as a freelance designer and maybe versus what it would be like working for a corporation.
Okay. For a corporation, you have, it's highs and lows with this thing. With a corporation, you have a definite start time, you have a definite end time. With freelance, sometimes it feels like it doesn't end, because you're constantly thinking about it. My normal day, I'm usually up between around 6 o'clock, I think 5:45, 6:15, somewhere right around there. I'm usually up. I try to get in the studio by about 7:30 or so. My normal day, I always do a couple of things when I get in the morning. I'm not a coffee drinker, so I don't run on coffee, which is kind of cool. Breakfast, and then I'll start the day off with prayer every morning. After that, I'll jump into my field notes. I will make my list of what needs to be done and what needs to be accomplished that day. Usually I eat lunch whenever I get hungry, which sometimes is 11:30. Yesterday I had lunch at 4 o'clock. It was that kind of a busy day. And then I usually leave, depending on the day. Sometimes I'll leave at 5:30, sometimes I'll leave at 6, depending on what I'll have to get done. But that's basically what a general day looks like for me. Now during that day, I'm having meetings. I've got meetings and sketches, and when I get done with this thing at 12:45, I've got a couple more things I got to fix. I have a client presentation at 1 o'clock, right? So you fit in everything you can, right? But that's what a general day looks like for me.
Cool. So you mentioned your field notes. Edgar had the question, how do you stay on task and finish your work on time? So do you have any other methods of ways to stay organized and your time management and things like that?
I mean, the field notes help quite a bit, but in the end, it's just, you know, it really is a priorities thing. You know, just, you know, you look at the due date, you figure out what it's going to take. The other thing is you got to be careful about taking too much on at once. Now, I am notorious for doing that. Now, I have learned how to make that happen and get the work done, but it's still not incredibly healthy. Twice this year, I've had to do a waiting list, which sounds really cool, but it's really scary because, you know, it's like, are they gonna still be there in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatnot? But really just figuring out, you separate it into the what needs to get done and is urgent to get done, as opposed to things that don't really need to have all your attention at the moment. One thing that I would say, I get this from time to time now, not as often as I used to, but they'll say, take all the time you want. No. You must give me some general due date, even if it's not whether this thing has to be done. Like, give me a thing a month out where I have to check in with you and show you what I'm doing, or so on and so forth, you know, because I want to be able to stay on top of it. So always make sure you have some type of a deadline.
Cool. Carolina wondered, are there days that you don't feel very creative? And if you hit kind of a design block, what are some methods to repower your design ideas?
I'm not a big believer in design block, to be incredibly honest.
Okay.
Now, I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just, a lot of times it's something, it's not that you can't think of something or that you can't figure out this problem. Man, sometimes you're just tired, you know? I'm there in the studio or whatnot. You might come in one day and just see me lean back in my chair, my hat pulled down over my eyes because I'm taking like a 15-minute nap. You know, I'm just tired. I'm looking at this, the screen's starting to blur. It's not because I can't think of anything. It's just I need a rest. So I'll do that. Sometimes you're hungry, sometimes you're thirsty. You know, sometimes it's, you know, didn't have enough water or something like that. But sometimes I'll step out. I'll go walk around downtown. I have a myriad of old, I mean, y'all saw in my studio, I've got a ton of old things that I've found over the years. I'll start looking through those, you know, just to kind of get my mind on something else, you know. But a quick nap and a little snack or something like that, a lot of times will do more for me than anything.
Daniel asked, how do you incorporate feedback into your designs? What does that process look like between you and a client going back and forth to get to a final product?
So one thing not to assume is that the client knows exactly what you're thinking, because I don't know what they're thinking, right? So when you show them something, tell them what they're looking at. And it sounds simple, but it's not just, hey, check these logos out. It's like, no, I want to show you this. And here's why I feel this works, and explain that to them. So that, and you say, this is what, and you can even say, this is what I'm looking for feedback on. You can let them know, you know. It's a very collaborative, relationship that I have with my clients. So making sure that they know what they're trying to give feedback for, you know, making sure that, you know, this is why I designed it this way, because of what we talked about at the beginning of the project, right? So this is why I'm presenting this. Once they know that, you know, once you guys are on the same page, then that becomes it becomes much easier to kind of go back and forth. Some of the feedback is good, some of it's not. Be honest. You know, don't say, well, that feedback was horrible. You never say that. You know, you talk with them like a human being, you know, just say, hey, you know, based on this would happen, you know, and we talked about, why we wouldn't do it this way at the very beginning, and you were very adamant about that. So has something changed, you know, and then you can figure that out. So setting those baselines of, you know, and the directions of what you're trying to accomplish at the beginning of the project will only help you as you continue.
Cool. What would you describe, or how would you describe ways that you practice design, or ways that as we are growing designers, we could develop our skills probably on our own versus being in a class?
Well, I do have a bit of insight into this. You gotta just keep doing it. I mean, with anything, you know, I mean, they say, what does it take, like 10,000 hours or something to master something? I mean, it's just, you know, it was some crazy number like that. But I'm constantly, there's a couple of ways you can think about this. One, I'm never satisfied. I know that there are things that I can do to be better. I will continue to work on those things constantly. I will make things for myself. I don't have to wait for a client to come and talk to me and say, you know, hey, we need this. I can just make it just for fun. And I can make them into stickers or, you know, decals or posters or t-shirts or whatever. You know, it doesn't have to be, design doesn't have to be for a person. It can just be for you, you know, and you can try things on your own that maybe sometimes a client won't allow you to do, or once they see that you've done it, they might see a piece that you just did just for fun, and they'll say, you know what, maybe you can do that for us, right? So it is just a constant practice, you know, sketching, you know, in your sketchbooks or on the computer, you know. You've got, you know, other resources to keep developing. You've got your lynda.com, lynda.com. I don't know if your school has some type of a subscription to that or something. That might be something to ask. The other thing is Skillshare. I have a few friends that have done classes on there. I've taken a few classes on there this year, you know. So that would be my suggestion. You know, do some of the stuff just because you love it. You love something, you know, you'll be able to really, you know, to figure that stuff out.
All right, we'll do two more. This one is from Audra, and she's asking, how long did it take you to grow that beard?
It's still in the process. I started growing it I started growing it back in about 2011, in 2011, 2012. It's gotten long. I've trimmed it so many times. To get it that full, it took me a few months for sure. About 6 months. My beard doesn't grow as fast as some, but once it's there, it's not going anywhere apparently. So I'll hang on to it.
Well, we're mostly impressed by your beard, by the way. So.
Hey, I'll take it, and you know, I'll take the, you know, I've had some clients say that, it's like, you know what, we just saw your beard, we just thought you'd be a cool guy to talk to. Oh, you also do design. I dabble from time to time, so you know, whatever floats the boat.
What final piece of advice would you give these students as beginning and growing graphic designers, whether it's something they want to do with their life or not? What's some advice for their journey moving forward?
This is some heavy stuff. This stuff is fun. I don't dread going into work. I don't dread going into the studio. I don't dread. I was up at I was up at 6:30 this morning. You know, this is kind of my day at home. I can sleep in a little bit if I wanted to. I couldn't, because I couldn't wait to get in here. I couldn't wait to get in here and in my sketchbook and, you know, working on all this stuff. I mean, yes, I had deadlines, but I was so excited to get in here. Right? This stuff is fun. You know, don't make this into something, you know, weird, right? Find, you know, and then the other thing you can do is, you know, find somebody to help you out, you know, find somebody who's been there, done that. Find, you know, always be on the lookout for stuff like that, you know, and then constantly be working on your stuff and on yourself, you know. As a one-man shop, people, they look at my work, but they also look at me as a person. So it's not just working on your design stuff. there's plenty of designers that I've seen. They've got some good work, but man, to deal with them, the work starts to fade into the background a little bit, you know? So you're not just working on your skills, but you're also working on yourself as well, you know? And there are so many different things to do in design, you know, so many different things with the UI, UX and motion graphics, you know, video photography. I mean, there's so many different things that you guys can do and have fun with this, you know? It doesn't have to be just one thing.
Cool. We thank you so much for your time today. We'll,
Okay. I've got a couple minutes. Yeah, I've got maybe another 5 minutes if anybody had any other questions.
that you thought of while he's been talking?
I think they look hungry.
You can answer this if you want, but Daniel wants to know the range of how much you would get paid to design a logo.
I have done a trade to where I just traded something for like a buddy of mine out of California. He's going to build me a brand new website, and I'm redesigning his you know, his studio logo. I always get something for it. I never just do it just for nothing, right? And you know, even if it's something physical, something on the high end, $9,000-$10,000. You know, and we're talking just the logo. You know, you start bringing in other stuff. You know, that price goes up. You know, I know that I haven't. You know, but I can take on, you know, 3 or 4 projects worth, you know, X amount of $1,000 or something like that, as opposed to one big one. You know, and I'm fine with that. I like the variety. You know, there's designers that get paid way more. There's some that get paid way less. You know, the money in this and the notoriety and everything is all different for each person. So me being well off, to me, might be next to nothing for somebody else, but you get to make that call, which is really cool.
Any last question? We got time for one more. I think they all want to be graphic designers now.
Man, that's my stock price going down. No, but it's great, man. I appreciate you guys having me. You know, if anything, I just, you know, this is how much I love what I do. If any of y'all are ever in downtown Atlanta, you know, I'm there at the studio during the week at Switchyard. Please drop by, say hey. If you made a cool sticker or something, bring that as well. I'll trade you some of mine. You know, it's like the Pokemon cards of graphic design. You know, these stickers. So you know, it's kind of cool. If you want to follow me, like I said, at Studio Temporary, I'm on Instagram. If you have a question for me, you can reach out, shoot me a direct message or something through that, and I'm always happy to answer those. You know, when I get the chance. But until then, and until next time, thank y'all. I had a blast, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. So much. See ya. So $10,000 per logo. What y'all think about that? Not too bad. Okay, so we have some time for the bell rings. We're gonna head back to our classroom, and then y'all can leave from there. Right? Tell Miss Gibson and Miss Gibson, thank you so much. Thank you. Push your chairs on the table, please.
knew that some of y'all guys get together.
I just have to, I had to work.
Just told.
He's not even in our lunch. He's in the hallway. He's just roaming the hallway. And he tried to tackle him.
Is he still in your room?
No, that was from advisement earlier
Okay,
today.
that's fine. We didn't sign, I'm fine.
Oh,
Okay,
shoot.
no, that's all
Okay.
right. I'm just glad I got to hear.
And let's check the book out real quick.
Oh, you're out of peppermints.
Good dog. I need to be last week.
Oh, the books from yesterday, they were late.
Yes, there were 2 days.
Yeah, because my teacher, I tried to get it on Monday. So on Monday, she told me no. I can tell you, I'll pay you right now.
We open at 7:30, we're open to 4, so that's how you can.
So it's like,
That's why we stand on the inside cover, so don't wait till like that day. Come and do it, or, that way you won't be late. Can I get that? And that way, I would. She had to leave to go, she had to leave to go to training. I'm not sure. There's an issue with, Here's the paper that it's pretty fun. I have been there before in a timekeeper where when the other
Yeah.
she was here for 6 years. She did it. I would go there my mom too. So we were in the questions. I was the timekeeper. So it's pretty.
Is Miss Gibson here today?
Yeah, she's a large.
Oh,
it's a large. So she
Yeah.
back in the yes.
Okay, because that's how she kind of interested me. I had heard of that. Oh, and I can read pretty fast and do well. So that's a good one. Well, I read he was telling her about the winter series of all these body series like ever. And the final book is and I was so excited when it came out. I finished it with a grade. Oh, I was so excited for that book. And they didn't really need that one thing because so they really did. And I learned 3 words before I went to week. But when it came out, I was so excited. I read it so fast. I didn't know. I didn't know it was that today. There's 3 in the book. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, she said as soon as she did that, she did it forever. Which, yeah, she's got a lot of. I love it's like I read I don't know much more about this tree. We got it. It's just
You do it, they fall on top. When you lock knees. I don't know, people are stupid. Dude, this is my third time. We just was kids. I came here too. She said, "It's Jacob." When I walked in, she said, "Yeah, you don't like it."
I think they're good.
Is this for me?
Oh. Yeah, you're good.
Oh,
Does that not taste terrible?
hey, I don't want this. So this morning.
Protein shakes.
Okay,
Yeah, we have protein shakes.
Does that?
Oh, I get it. Here, what you should do, that.
I don't want it like.
Oh, but it looks tacky. You should cut it down the middle. Are you actually?
Yeah, cut it down the
Wait,
middle.
come here, come here.
Yes.
Wait, no.
Oh, it's weird.
And
Like,
yeah,
it looks gross, but like, definitely point it out.
You're good.
I don't know. I was like, I saw my grade. I'm like, yeah. And I remember the first 5. I was like, I got 106. Okay, woo. Yeah, all of us got +5. Our class.
Where did you get the second?
We got how much? You got 101.
She's like,
+5.
this is an experience I get to have.
Wait, who said that is? Landra. One of my life. I gotta see her one because for some reason. I just want to say that. You lost my test, so I couldn't work on it. And
There's some parts I kind of like I didn't
now
know.
my grade is
Let me see this. My grade's gonna go down.
Once I
Okay, so please listen. You have a assignment here that I'm passing out, and there's some colored pencils here as well. You should have gotten a notification on Canvas about these 2 coloring activities. Because you're 5th period, we may or may not have time in class Friday for you to work on this. However, they're due by Friday. That does not mean that just because you're part of the band, the football team, color guard, softball, whoever, cheerleaders, that you can say, oh, I was a part of homecoming activities. Nope, I will not accept late work. You have time to work on this at home. You have time to work on it in class today and tomorrow. However, there's no guarantee that it will be sufficient time. There's 2 coloring activities. Yes, it's like I'm bringing the hammer, isn't it, guys, with all the coloring. Now, the coloring is important because although you're categorizing basically groups of elements on the periodic table, things that you've done before even, all of this stuff is necessary for that quizzes homework assignment that's due by 4 p.m. Friday online. Remember that one. How many times do you get?
3.
You get 3 times, and I'm going to take the highest of the 3. If you have any questions, please ask. Otherwise, the directions are on the back. It's very straightforward.
No, I thought it was how many tries you get. I thought it was 5. There's another class. There's another class where we're doing something. We got 5 tries. Really? Did you get it all? It went from an 8 class to 6. Slowly going, slowly. I'm in Christian. I got it on Saturday. I studied the morning. I was oh my gosh, you're so good. We're getting there. We're getting there.
You'll understand. I do.
Here are colored pencils over here. You'll want to grab some as you're working along. And that's that.
So whatever that yeah.
Who is it here?
Angel.
Yeah, Angel checked out. Somebody else did too. Madison. Where's Madison? She's moving.
I know it was a joke.
All right, who else do we say? Madison, Angel, and Juan. Who else? Oh, wait, what's her name? Oh, wait. I think probably Erica. Yes. All right, that's it.
Well, he's requiring the little people.
Yes. Hey, look, it does say at the top of that page, do your own research. That means maybe look up some periodic tables, check out some Link's got it. Yes.
What? I do? Oh. We're already coloring. What? No, Ray.
But we're not.
That's
Because we're supposed to go yesterday. But Mark took forever. Is he going on the back? Are you sure? Because I think it's. You know the email.
Is this all on camera?
I could send you an email. I can tell you. Yes. Wait, who's paying? What? Just no one asked. How are you gonna find them? Yeah. I think you can find them by giving Sarah.
Hey.
Oh, to find them by giving. Where's the properties? Yeah.
I like to look at the picture.
Yeah. I don't know the jacket line typically hard, shining, reliable, fusible.
Well, that's just the solid.
But it says like the following terms by giving it.
Yeah, it says upon the following by picking. Your properties. So highlight the luster.
Yeah, she gave me the.
Isn't that my pencil that you put it
Yeah, I think there is one thing. Wait, what is
Very.
Electricity.
Oh,
shoot.
what's the like easy steering?
So,
I can nail it with the hair. Sorry. Is it white hair or no black hair and like a white base? Properties. I don't need this now. I think it's just.
Okay, well, it's in the car. It's in the car, and I gotta compile this again. So
Sophie. I keep saying her name for like the first time. It's still bad. Yeah.
Same colors. Hey. I'm sure already.
No. My nuts.
Sure, that's good. Okay, how scary is it?
Oh, man.
What we last year did we? Right.
Generally, like the high school. But like,
Aiden did it for us.
Did you take it off?
I took it off right after I had practice. I'm not going back.
So this is what I'm wearing.
It's like sometimes
It's like,
Yeah, they did last. No, it's shirt wire. No, they were just shirt wire. And then the no. That's Memorial Day. Wait, what's the door? Oh, that's. But she was doing a nut. Did I leave my hair down?
That's me.
You're gonna paint your whole face.
No, I haven't.
Are you gonna play? Are you gonna take it off?
No, that's. And then
How are you gonna play the trick?
easy go back. There's a whole one.
They don't have like. I would actually.
About to suspend y'all for talking about suspend.
Oh.
How about that? How about that? Talk about it, suspend. D-Hall. ISS. OSS from the kitchen.
Did I leave my hair down? Oh. I see what you did. You have the white thing on, and I can't have that on. Like when you go back next No.
Once we get
Oh, the video.
restore the circle. And then rotate.
It's a. Oh. I said I think that one. I don't know how to. Mercury is a. So this table is done. This table is Holden's just falling for. I'm fine with it.
I found 3 different.
Mine was
Yeah, I
like.
found 3 different.
Wait, literally, I said something. And what made it even worse was that when Sam dropped out,
Yeah.
it automatically. Sam was out there.
Oh, yeah.
I understand. Like it's really
That's really nice.
I hate that.
Yeah.
That's
Just so mistaken, guys.
Okay, wait, the rest of it? Doesn't he have a group? He did. There's one. Oh, I know. Mine. So cute.
I learned about
It's been like,
no matter what.
Do I know?
Yeah.
They're saying that. Did you not know that? Like, can I ask you? Okay. Listen.
He asked a German exchange student at homecoming because she didn't want to use not to.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes.
So she would like
It
makes more sense. I don't want to, but
Oh.
what do you
Hey, NJ.
What if that was like actually?
Wait.
Brittle.
Not
Why did he do this?
Like,
Who are you doing wacky name for?
Say something sad.
myself.
Something
I don't
juicy.
have anybody else. Like,
I don't have.
we need someone to fly.
Just if my dad ever saw me, take my face over mine.
Yeah. For my class.
Ooh,
For theater director.
or my, you can wear it.
Yes, I need to go.
we make it perfect quote for him.
Okay.
Alright, ready? Lay on the couch.
You can't tell me this is
Like, you're gonna paint your whole face white.
That's the on air.
No,
Well, I'm not gonna talk back.
Nice pictures of Jack. I like this.
Come on.
Hold that down.
I spread out on the couch.
You believe?
I don't think they are.
Are you
like how
Matt.
Who's shushing me?
Hang on. Oh, okay.
Probably does much different work in your like neonates.
Explain it.
Is the water heater?
Yeah.
Down to the bottom.
And it has this to their
Whoa.
It has to be long as you make it, whatever.
I was talking to calories. Just as there's all these languages, so what's the one?
Yeah. You're good. No, I can hang
Here, it matters.
Like the texture is it's like brown. Yeah, it's like a mean, but it's just,
They were trying to get me
sun. What is this? Semi-sweet. Like it's,
not
I mean, yeah, it's
sun.
like pillow. It's sun. Pillow with
What is bacon?
See, they went all the way to him.
That's what I like.
This is the only worksheet, right?
What is that?
I can't give away my supplier.
Okay.
You're right.
So
Wait, in the car, there's if you're sitting in the car,
Oh.
Those on that line. They got properties.
so what you're doing on, you can't go real fast.
I knew.
Here? No, I mean, I do.
Fish done.
Yeah, there's no football over there.
Oh, this is burnt.
You're going to get disappointed.
Like these classes.
No.
That's
No.
Other than AP. Oh, that's a
I didn't like it.
I don't want to handle this.
No, I sent it. No. I like that.
It's like throwing around the ball.
Yeah. I like that idea.
Like that.
Yeah.
You're great.
It's as I can.
Yeah, we haven't really learned about.
We're learning about you without
Looks like
Yours is too.
Yeah, but we actually right.
and we've already ran this board there to stick board.
Oh, it is American.
I want
Wrestling.
Yeah. We're doing shade. Jacob is so good. I don't even. Did we?
And we were
What else?
going down to get coffee.
Wait, are those
Homework.
medals?
And
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're
Yes.
they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what about what about me?
This looks like Superman.
That's
Wait, we all check.
You can't.
Yeah. I was. Which one are you looking at? Let's see. I'm looking at this one. But it's different. I didn't stand.
Yeah, but it's like
I get
oh yeah,
I would ask you.
Wiley. Nope. Bring it up. Look it up. Don't make me bring it up. Right.
I know, we ditched Langham's Club.
Starts at 1.
We gotta put probably.
Yeah. Oh, probably like 2.
We're gonna do this for a week.
Really just
And that whenever we did play, we went and then we go oh yeah. I was doing that. Oh, my shit, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
We need to know like the dollars that the brush.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we're supposed to be.
No, it's what's our perspective on the witches.
The witch is trying to.
But we're in the back zone, so.
You think
We changed ours real quick.
everyone does.
Wait, are there four?
Well,
That's
ours
in
is
the
quicker
second
than
time.
everybody. It's like for me, we start that, and then once we get into this,
You think she's back to start. And then
as
change.
soon as we get into the sun, we're like,
I said if you get to the sun, you go back.
You think she's good. Yeah.
I'm so happy that
People don't realize that.
it's so cool.
Like I said, spike. So be like, let's get exactly how much spike.
Because you know what's an enemy?
But about
It's all about.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, this is a
Hey.
Hey, good thing God.
Oh wait, what were the bombs? I know, I can tell. Yeah, and you kind of that one.
What do you like? What does that mean? What kind of question is that? Is this a loaded question?
Sort of. Like, do you like the festivity?
What kind of question are you, I mean, what do you want?
Well, because I know some teachers like don't like it going. It's like crazy. It's hard to get like the kids like calm down.
So I expect this.
She wants this.
Okay.
I mean, it happens every year.
So you just need to go with the flow.
You go with the flow, you can't change.
Everything else.
Why I just like when all of this shit. Do I like it? Do I dislike it? What does it matter? Just go with the flow. Doesn't matter.
Right.
Are you going to Hawaii?
No.
Wow, that's right.
We didn't want to.
Make them other jabronis look it up.
Here are our plans. Our plans is to stay home and sleep.
For 15 minutes.
Not even going to. No.
Stay home and sleep.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah, it's fine. You just lied to me.
So we just,
Wait.
10 minutes on.
Wait.
Like,
I was like, you know.
Yeah.
Wait, what do you mean by?
did you finish? Did you I know it's so big. You take it over.
No.
Okay, all right. Turning up the diagram, but And like, as soon as she takes it
Can't
off,
give you the answer.
yeah, look it up. I don't know.
Hey,
Wait, so we
Oh, you're there?
Yes,
Your mom's.
it's metal.
No, it's your or they're just trying to rise.
Did you ask? Our rat's here. Seriously?
Category. Yeah.
I
remember yesterday when
don't know what these were.
Yeah, great, because I colored them.
What was that?
That was
All right.
I'm waiting on you. Oh my god. This bacon, they're coming
Finally.
Sarah, -10. Not nice at all.
But I say the wrong word. It's like,
I hate Sarah.
We just like her
You're
with
just
the
an easy
passion.
target.
We dislike her with the passion.
yeah, that makes you a bully.
No, it doesn't. It makes you a
bully.
target.
That's different. It makes you the lead.
That's what they.
Yeah. Yeah, but I was like, like your family. So I was you just write it. A period. No, but you have to define what family. Yeah, that's the other. Yeah. No, not like wood, like. I think it's like a barcode on it. It's yeah, yeah. Oh, they all have.
What do you call it?
Yes. I'm just trying to get this.
I know they call that. I just call them rubbers.
Class.
Oh.